Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're here to share information about this year's upcoming wildfire season and ways we can ensure we're all prepared. I'm joined by State Forester Cal Mukumoto, Oregon Department of Forestry Fire Protection Chief Mike Shaw, Deputy State Fire Marshal Travis Medema, Major General Michael Stencil with the Oregon National Guard, Oregon Office of Emergency Management Director Andrew Phelps, and Leah Felden, Deputy Director of the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality. But before we dive in today, I want to acknowledge the horrific shooting in Buffalo this weekend. Every person should be able to go to a grocery store on a Saturday morning and return home safely. This senseless act, fueled by racism and domestic terrorism, is a stain on our country. My thoughts and prayers are with the families impacted and with all of our community members who are feeling the impact of this weekend's violence. When it comes to fires, we always strive to be honest and timely with the information we give Oregonians. So let me give it to you straight. We are seeing conditions in place that indicate another challenging fire season ahead. While many of us have experienced a lot of rain recently, in many parts of the state, we're already seeing mega drought, with even worse drought conditions expected to continue. Already this year, I have declared drought emergencies in 15 counties. This is the most I have ever declared by this time of any year as your governor. And because of these drought conditions and forecasted weather, early indications are that a larger geographic area of Oregon is at significant risk for wildfires this season. This is particularly true for southern Oregon, up through central Oregon, and into parts of the Gorge and eastern Oregon. So with all signs pointing to a difficult 2022 fire season that will challenge our firefighting teams and the capacity of our response systems. And we know from the past several years that we're fighting fires of a new age, made more intense by the impacts of climate change. Almost every fire season since I became governor has been more complex and more difficult. From Chetco Bar in 2017 to the Labor Day fires of 2020 and last year's bootleg fire, it is a different wildfire environment with new challenges that stress our firefighters and resources. The good news is that Oregon has one of the best wildfire response systems in the country. We continue to lead the nation in this space, improving even further as we roll out requirements from Senate Bill 762, which passed in the 2021 legislative session. Already, the investments from Senate Bill 762 have allowed us to add both seasonal firefighter capacity to our ranks and additional aviation assets. This includes water scoopers stationed in the gorge, where we are experiencing more intense wind-driven fires. However, most important, in the face of the extreme fires, we have seen what Oregonians are truly made of. National Guard members, law enforcement officers, and volunteers running towards danger to help their community members evacuate. Firefighters working around the clock for hours, days, and weeks to contain and extinguish these wildfires. Local businesses and restaurants donating clothing and food to support firefighters and help those who have lost everything. Through these actions, Oregonians have demonstrated the best of humanity during really tough times. We've proven that the Oregon way is one of teamwork, love, courage, and kindness. In that spirit, today, we are asking all Oregonians to do their part in order to prevent and prepare for wildfires. In terms of prevention, while some of the worst fires have been caused by natural disasters, most fires are human-caused. So please be smart and be careful when you're enjoying our outdoors. You can help prevent tragic loss. The fires of the past years have taught us that being prepared can truly mean the difference between life and death. It is also one of the best ways you can help our frontline firefighters do their jobs. So please, make a plan with your family. Sign up for local alerts at oralert.gov so you're aware of fires in your community. Have a plan, stay informed, and get 2 weeks ready. You can visit wildfire.oregon.gov for helpful information. And if you are asked to evacuate, please, just do it. As we prepare for what is likely to be a very challenging season, I ask that all of us remember, while the stakes are high, the time is now. We have the knowledge, the tools, and the commitment we need to take life-saving actions that will help our communities. Thank you. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our state forester, Cal Makamoto. Cal, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Governor. I appreciate that. Good morning. I'm State Forester Cal Mukamoto with Oregon Department of Forestry, and we're here today with our firefighting partners from the Office of State Fire Marshal. You know, I've seen quite a bit of media coverage about the forecast for fire season, so I know you are all aware that we're expecting it to be another challenging year. There's great work going on throughout the year by so many public and private organizations to reduce wildfire risks across the state. However, the current wildfire crisis didn't come overnight, and it will also take time to create more resilient forests and fire-adapted communities. However, there is something we can all do that would have an immediate impact on wildfire risk and impacts. Next slide, please. The majority of wildfires that we and our partners respond to every year are caused by people. Every Oregonian can help protect firefighters, communities, and our state's natural resources by understanding what actions can cause wildfires and knowing how to mitigate those risks. The work of the media is critical to ensuring people have what they need to make well-informed decisions about a great many things, including fire safety. You know, thank you all for helping us get the word out about prevention, especially over the past few weeks during Wildfire Awareness Month. You know, with that, I'll turn it over to Chief Mike Shaw, ODS Fire Protection Chief.
Thank you, Cal. Next slide, please. Good morning. Again, thanks, Cal. My name is Mike Shaw, and I serve as the Chief of Fire Protection for the Oregon Department of Forestry. Want to spend just a couple of minutes this morning discussing what the 2022 fire season might look like. There are several predictive services products that we generally use in fire management to look at what the fire season might bring. I'm going to focus on one of those today, which is up on the slide. That said, the cool, wet April and beginning of May has been a welcome respite from what we were seeing during March. I can't say that I'm complaining. That weather pattern has helped with the snowpack. It has also effectively delayed the onset of fire season. The continuation or cessation of this current weather pattern will really dictate how soon we go into fire season, but I am thrilled that we have gotten the weather we have in the past month. Like I said, I want to focus on the current drought in Oregon, though. You heard the governor speak of drought declarations across the state in a variety of counties. As you can see from this slide, we are in a very significant drought pattern with exceptional drought covering the bulk of the east slope of the Cascades and extreme drought expanding across vast portions of eastern Oregon and into southwest Oregon as well. Comparatively, in 2021, which was a very challenging season, the coverage of exceptional drought was significantly less than what you see for this year. This will likely translate into a very challenging fire season, as the fires that begin in these areas will be very difficult to suppress over very significant portions of Oregon as we move into the fire season. Of note, while the recent spring weather has been very beneficial for delaying this fire season onset, when those conditions do change, the underlying drought conditions will quickly overtake, and that transition period from non-fire season into fire season will likely come very quickly this year. And the fires that we do encounter will be difficult to suppress. Next, I'd like to turn it over to Deputy Chief Travis Medema.
Hey, good morning and welcome. My name is Travis Medema. I serve as the Chief Deputy for the Office of State Fire Marshal. And if we can go to the next slide. This next set of slides shows wildfire potential for the 2022 wildfire season. It's a set of 4 slides that run from May to August. If you look at the top left-hand corner, that's the slide that indicates the wildfire potential for May. And as you see, all indications pointed to a very active wildfire season in the Southwest, Desert Southwest. And as we all know, that has played out to be true. Very active wildfire season so far in New Mexico and Texas, and anticipate that to continue. As you look out to the top right-hand slide, you move into June. As we see June, additional activity begins to pick up in the state of Oregon, especially as we move into the mid and latter part of June. And while the respite of rain and cooler temperatures has been wonderful, there are also concerns around fine fuels and grasses due to the moisture that we'll be seeing in mid to late June. Additionally, as you move down to the bottom left and the bottom right, you'll see anticipated wildfire potential for July and August. And you see a significant uptick on the east slope of the Cascades down in southern Oregon and also portions of eastern Oregon. As Chief Shaw mentioned, we all know that this exceptional drought that plagued the state in the 2021 wildfire season and continued to expand as we look into the 2022 fire season. And all indications and anticipations are, as we get into July and August, that Oregon is poised for a significant wildfire season. Additionally, if you were to look at lightning and average strikes that lightning has a year, in 2021, we had a below average lightning season. With an average lightning season in Oregon, along with the anticipated drought and the fire potential conditions across the state, again, could be very problematic as we move into the heart of Oregon's fire season in July and August. Lastly, on this side, you'll see large portions of the Western United States that are at wildfire potential and at risk. As we get into July and August, competition for critical resources such as helicopters and crews could be problematic based off of the anticipation of wildfire risk across the Western United States. Next slide, please. So how are the agencies preparing and ready to respond as we go into another potentially difficult fire season? For the Office of State Fire Marshal, it's a very forward-leaning posture, and our goal and mission is to keep fires small and out of communities. We do that through our Oregon Fire Mutual Aid System, which is the network of the 305 fire departments, your fire departments across the state. They mobilize task forces, strike teams, and personnel whenever fires break out and threaten communities. The Office of State Fire Marshal has 3 incident management teams that are trained and prepared and on duty 24/7, and these women and men are ready to respond to protect your community at your time of need. Additionally, with the passage of 762, it provided numerous tools to the Office of State Fire Marshal that have a significant impact in a very positive way on our ability to respond to severe wildfire seasons. It made investments, one-time investments in the office to increase our preparedness and ability to pre-position resources. And this is moving the Oregon Structural Fire Service and task forces and engines to your communities when there's a threat or a risk. Additionally, it allows us to mobilize immediately should there be a significant threat to a community. And then lastly, it added capacity to work with local communities and the Oregon Fire Service to bolster capacity as needed when Oregon has challenging times. Lastly, through Governor Brown's excellent leadership, an early declaration is something that she did in 2021, and that was significant in the office's ability to access additional resources from out of state through our neighboring partners. And in numerous conversations with Governor Brown, I know she's prepared and ready to do that again. And Governor, I can't thank you enough for your leadership in that space and helping set us up to be successful. With that, I'll turn it over to Chief Shaw to finish out the update.
All right, thank you, Travis. Next slide, please. So ODF has also been working very hard to prepare for this fire season as well. Similar to the Office of State Fire Marshal, and we actually work hand in hand very closely on a lot of these items. And it's truly humbling to be here with Travis presenting to you folks. First, regarding our staffing, as an agency, we're in the final stages of hiring our seasonal firefighters. And some of those folks are already on. And this is actually notable because it was made possible with the passage of Senate Bill 762 and the additional person months of funding that were added into that legislation that has helped the agency address the longer duration fire seasons by bringing some of our firefighters on earlier. What this has done is allowed the agency to bring a subset of our seasonal workforce on so that we can accomplish critical training and be prepared for fires that are occurring earlier in the season. In addition to our seasonal staffing, we continue to staff 3 incident management teams for when we have that need for fires that escape our initial attack and need a team to manage that incident. The agency continues to work closely with our landowner base and all of our cooperators to make sure that all of the training and processes are in place for an effective and efficient response. Of note, we continue to build out our detection program with additional smoke detection cameras that were funded through Senate Bill 762. And those have been installed. A couple of them have been installed prior to this fire season, and the remainder will be installed during this fire season and up and running for fire season 2023. Really important, the investment into our severity aviation program. That program is well on track to have all of the aviation assets available across the state as conditions warrant this fire season when we need those to be on hand. Lastly, but certainly not least, is the public information planning. It is critical for us to get out timely and accurate information so that people can make informed decisions to protect themselves and their families. Throughout fire season, the agency regularly communicates about the statewide fire situation and will be your best point of contact for the big picture of what's going on in Oregon. Additionally, larger fires with incident management teams assigned also will have public information personnel on the ground who are great resources for anything specific to that particular fire. With that, I believe I am turning it over to Major General Stencil next.
Yes, thank you, Mike. Next slide, please. Morning, I'm Major General Mike Stencil, Adjutant General for the state of Oregon. Well, I'll tell you, this year, Oregon Military Department has a very similar construct that we've had in the past several years. Our capacity is about the same, but you're going to see some minor variations in the presentation of forces that you see for our wildland firefighters here in the first line. In the past, we've typically utilized 3 125-person teams. This year, we're initially planning for deploying 12 22-member hand crews. And working with ODF here throughout the winter, we figured out that this is a more nimble, flexible presentation that allows them to deploy these folks with their firing crews in a more compatible manner. Also, I'd offer that post-COVID, with all the folks that we've had deployed working in the hospitals throughout the state, this construct allows us to do more of a just-in-time training. Give these folks some of their time back and bring them in on as we need them. All of these folks will be able to bring together in these first 5 crews at camp within 96 hours after call up. With regard to the aviation, as shown here, we can sustain 2 Blackhawks with just over 500-gallon buckets within 72 hours. We also have the capacity to bring on 1 medevac Blackhawk and sustain them throughout the fire season. Unlike last year, we have our Chinooks that were deployed overseas back. So we're going to be able to add 1 of those to the lineup, which gives us a 1,500-gallon bucket capacity, and we'll be able to sustain 1 aircraft and bring another one on the surge for up to 12 days. And then at the bottom, you'll note there logistics support teams, effectively ground crews that will be able to stand up as needed. It's essentially unlimited, and we'll be able to reach down as deep as necessary to support the team. With that, I'm going to hand it off to Andrew Phelps, the head of the Office of Emergency Management.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Governor. Volume's okay, I hope. My name is Andrew Phelps. I serve as the director of the Oregon Office of Emergency Management. This morning, I'd like to highlight the role of OEM in coordinating state resources to mitigate the community impacts and manage the consequences of wildfire. I also want to make sure Oregonians know that there are systems and resources in place to help prepare ourselves and our communities for wildfires. Next slide, please. I'd like to begin by highlighting the role that dozens of state agencies play apart from their blue sky role to support emergency response here in Oregon. We organize our response by Emergency Support Function, or ESF, which is mirrored at the federal and local level. Each Emergency Support Function, or ESF, has a lead state agency that coordinates response operations and align with their statutory authority. Agencies like the Oregon Department of Human Services, which leads the Mass Care ESF, work year-round to partner with nonprofit organizations to support local governments in establishing their shelter and feeding operations when folks are displaced by wildfires. Through coordinated efforts by agencies like the Oregon Department of Transportation, Department of Administrative Services, and others, we are able to leverage the full force of state government to respond to emergencies and disasters. Next slide, please. We know, however, that sometimes we need a little help from our friends. Another tool in our toolbox that Deputy Chief Medina alluded to, that we've relied on many times, especially in recent years, is interstate mutual aid. This is an incredible force multiplier for Oregon, and in the last 2 fire seasons alone, we've used these agreements to bring nearly 500 firefighters and other personnel from 15 different states to help with our wildfire response. As fire seasons have become longer and more intense, having these relationships with our neighbors truly saves lives and property. Next slide, please. While local, state, and federal agencies have a role to play in keeping our communities safe during fire season, we also need to remember that we have a shared responsibility to prepare for emergencies and disasters. We're encouraging every Oregonian who has not yet signed up for OrAlert to join their nearly 500,000 neighbors who have already done so. This is a critical resource to help ensure Oregonians get timely and accurate information during emergencies. We also ask that Oregonians remember we are still working to recover from the 2020 and 2021 wildfires, as well as experiencing that historic drought across much of our state. Add to that the fact that we'll be hosting athletes from around the world this July in Eugene for the World Athletic Championships, which is an awesome opportunity for Oregon to shine, but adds an increased level of planning and vigilance to our state preparedness posture. Lastly, I want to close with highlighting something that's very important for our media partners, and that's the work OEM is doing to convene the committee to help implement the House Bill 4087, pertaining to the safe media access to wildfires and other disaster incidents. This fire season will be normal operations for folks, as the bill doesn't take effect until January 1, 2023. But we look forward to continued collaboration and partnership with our media partners to ensure safe, accessible access to disaster scenes to help tell the story and empower Oregonians to make decisions to protect themselves and their communities. With that, I will turn it over to Leah Feldon from the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality.
Thank you, Director Phelps. Yes, I'm Leah Feldon, Deputy Director at Oregon DEQ. DEQ plays several roles in Oregon's response to wildfires, and we work collaboratively with a wide range of state agencies, tribes, local health agencies, and local governments. To help Oregonians prepare for wildfires, we work with communities. We offer grants to help them become more resilient to smoke. That can mean developing smoke management plans, community education on how to create a safe airspace in your home, and other ways of preparing. And during a wildfire event, as you're about to hear in more detail, we monitor smoke conditions and publish our air quality data and issue air quality advisories when called for. And finally, in the event of a wildfire and damage or potential destruction to homes, DEQ helps with the hazardous waste and debris removal, testing soil and water for possible contaminants, and advising on the safe return to homes or businesses. I want to turn it over to Tom Royk, DEQ's Air Quality Monitoring Manager at our lab, to give you more detail on our monitoring work. Tom?
Yes, good morning. Next slide, please. So with wildfire in mind, we are improving how we conduct air quality monitoring statewide and the ways we share air quality information with the public. DEQ maintains a network of air quality monitoring stations across Oregon, and we're expanding the network to provide more information on wildfire smoke. This map shows existing particulate monitoring locations, which are the green dots on the state. New sites set up since the last wildfire season are in dark blue, and those we hope to get up and running before this wildfire season in light blue. In addition, with Senate Bill 762, DEQ received resources to set up another 20 monitors, and we plan to have a proposal for those locations this June. We share this air quality information with the public through the Oregon Air Quality Index website, a smartphone app titled Oregon Air, and the Oregon Smoke Block. Next slide, please. So the Oregon Smoke Block is a main source of information about air quality and wildfire conditions around the state. In the past year, the blog has been updated and upgraded to be more mobile friendly and easier to navigate and use. We've added a separate Spanish language version in which all posts are translated into Spanish. Additionally, the blog is associated with a Twitter account so people can see information posted on social media and a link to the blog for more details. Decisions on whether to issue an air quality advisory are determined by DEQ in consultation with ODF, Oregon Health Authority, and a variety of other state and federal agencies, local counties, tribes, and others. So that concludes what DEQ wanted to share today. Thank you, and I will hand it back to you, Governor Brown.
Thank you so much. With that, Liz, we're ready to take questions.
Okay, great, Governor. For the reporters in the Zoom room, if you have a question, please use the raise your hand function. All right, great. We will start with KGW. If you could just let us know your name, that would be great.
Hey there, this is Joe Ranieri with KGW. Yeah, kind of insightful stuff out there, but just a couple quick questions. With all the rain that we've seen here the last basically 2 months, we've seen last check about 11 inches of rain so far this spring. How is that going to, obviously it's helping with the drought stricken areas, but also the snowpack in the mountains, but also it's fueling potential more fuel with grasses and weeds growing. How are you guys going to watch that over the next few weeks?
Well, thank you, Joe. And we are incredibly grateful, frankly, for every drop of rain and every inch of snow that we get. It all makes a difference. But as I said earlier in my remarks, the conditions are incredibly challenging out there. I've already issued 15 drought declarations by May 16th of this year. We've never seen that level before. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Shaw to give you some more detailed information.
Thank you, Governor. Well said. So the inches of rain that you reference are predominantly in Northwest Oregon. And if you recall back to that map that we showed, they're really negligible to no drought conditions in Northwest Oregon. But as you move south into Southern Oregon, Southwest Oregon, and then across the crest of the Cascades into Eastern Oregon is where you see that underlying drought conditions. And I happen to live in Eastern Oregon, and I can tell you that while it has been cooler and damper, the actual accumulation of rain has been marginal at best across Central Oregon. And so the drought conditions persist. The benefit is that we have delayed the onset of fire season, and we have added to the snowpack at the high elevations. But where we really are challenged is the low to mid elevation ground, where is not really referenced by the snowpack graphics. And we have gotten very little rain accumulation on a inches basis compared to normal. And so I would say that we're in better shape than we would have been if March weather had continued, but it's still going to be challenging once we make that transition to warmer and drier weather.
Great. Thanks, Joe. We'll go next to Julia Shumway with the Oregon Capitol Chronicle.
Thanks. So I'm curious, looking at the conditions so far, can you tell whether it will be another year with mega fires? Does it seem like there may be the possibility that we will have a lot of fires start but be able to control? What are you anticipating?
Thanks, Julia, for that question. And obviously, it's a little early to tell about mega fires, but the fire behavior we're seeing in states like New Mexico and Texas is incredibly concerning. And so the reason why we're doing this press avail today is that we want to know, let Oregonians know that each one of us can make a difference, that we can all play a role here by being really careful and fire-wise when we are outside, but also making sure that you sign up to OR Alert to get fire alerts, and frankly, also to be 2-week ready. So all of this plays a role in making sure that Oregonians are prepared and doing everything we can to prevent wildfires. And with that, I'll turn it back to Chief Shaw.
Thank you, Governor. I couldn't have said that better myself. I should just stop right now. But I will add a couple of comments. The prevention piece is critically important, and any fire that we can keep off of the landscape that is human caused is going to be absolutely critical for the long-term health and wellness, both economically and physically for Oregonians. We know that we are going to have a fire season. We always do in Oregon, and we know that we will have lightning caused fires. And the big driver is how widespread and broad and far reaching is that lightning, and does it come with moisture? And if we don't have moisture associated with the lightning, with the underlying drought conditions, it is very likely that we will have exceedingly challenging fires on the landscape that we have to deal with. And so we gear up for those weather events by pre-positioning resources, both within the Oregon Department of Forestry and Office of State Fire Marshal. And we prepare as best we can for the onset of those events. That if we could predict lightning and where, some of us maybe wouldn't be working any longer and we'd be retired, because that's kind of the big variable that we can't quite get our head wrapped around. So I would expect this year that we will have some challenging fires on the landscape, and the driver will be how much lightning and how much moisture comes with that. And maybe I would turn it over to Office of State Fire Marshal Travis, if you have anything else to add to that.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Governor. I think it's been well said. My only note would be the same underlying conditions that existed in 2021 down in Klamath and Lake counties that resulted in the third largest wildfire in history in Oregon will still be present in 2022. To make that even more concerning is those same underlying fuel conditions and exceptional drought is further expanding its footprint across Oregon. So to all the other points, I think it'll depend on starts and it'll depend on the time. However, in terms of risk, I think Oregon sits at even larger risk than it did during the 2021 wildfire season due to the expanding drought and mega drought across Oregon, specifically South Central, and moving into Eastern Oregon.
Thanks, Julia. We'll go next to Cale Williams with the Oregonian. Go ahead, Cale.
Hi there. Thanks for taking my question. I know that some of the national agencies, specifically BLM and U.S. Forest Service, have been having trouble filling all of their positions for wildland firefighters. I'm wondering, probably for Mike Shaw, if Oregon is seeing any similar troubles, and kind of along those same lines, have you done any thinking if additional resources from outside states are not available later in the fire season, given the hiring troubles that the national agencies are having?
Kale, I will just jump in here really quickly. I can't emphasize how critically important the passage of Senate Bill 762 has been. in terms of our efforts to upgrade and modernize our wildfire fighting capacity, having the resources to both hire boots on the ground and additional aviation resources has been absolutely essential. And we're really grateful for the legislature for stepping up and investing in this program. Hiring is a challenge across the country, as we know. That's why participation in these collaborative efforts, both national and international, are absolutely essential for our work. And just, we really appreciate folks coming to help Oregon from as far away as Australia and Canada during wildfire season. With that, I'll turn it back over to the chief.
Thank you, Governor. Appreciate the question. It is a challenge, and it's really a challenge that the agency has been facing for some time now. And as we staff up in a variety of rural locations where housing is a challenge and quote, being off the grid are a challenge for some of the folks that we're trying to hire for short duration jobs. We continue to look for creative solutions to find ways to bring folks to want to be a firefighter for the Oregon Department of Forestry. Related to this year, it's what I would characterize as a little more difficult, but we are not in the dire circumstances that I have heard out of other entities and agencies per se. I just recently outreached to all of our district offices out in the field, and the responses that I'm getting back are, we are going to be able to fulfill almost all of the hiring, if not in most locations, and we will not be parking assets because we can't find bodies to staff them. So we're in better shape than always, or than other entities currently. That said, the struggles that those folks have will have an impact on us. When we get into the heart of our fire season and resource shortages become apparent, whether that's with our contract firefighting resources or with our federal counterparts, we will be reaching out to our neighboring states, which is one of the key reasons that we send some of our firefighters to help them in their time of need, so that when we get into the heart of our fire season and we are stretched thin, we can call on those folks and have some of their resources come respond and provide assistance to us. Bottom line, we're going to be in pretty good shape this year as an agency, but we will get stretched if we get busy this summer overall as a collective firefighting community.
Thank you, Kale. We'll go next to Brandon Thompson with Coin. Go ahead, Brandon.
Hi there. Thank you for taking our questions today. Kind of related on that, with the national fire picture, I mean, with those fires already happening in the Southwest, some fires happening over the weekend in Colorado, what's your concern about the national firefighting capacity once the fire season kind of progresses? My thought goes to those maps that you showed as we go through June, July, August, and the fire season getting worse or projected to get worse. What's your concern with those level of resources?
Well, Brandon, I'm really grateful that we have a committed partner in our federal administration with President Biden and Vice President Harris. We've had two meetings, I believe, with governors in Western states talking about how we can collaborate across jurisdictions to both prevent, mitigate, and then stop wildfires. And the new legislation, the bipartisan infrastructure law, provides significant additional resources to both USDA and Department of Interior for efforts like the Good Neighbor Authority, which allow us to do prescriptive burning and thinning on federal lands to help mitigate federal risk. Senator Wyden has been a champion for making sure these agencies have adequate resources for wildfire fighting on the ground when things are happening. And Oregon, honestly, we've led in a number of innovative ways locally in terms of making sure we have adequate capacity. ODOT has a great partnership with Department of Forestry to cross-train folks in snow removal and firefighting. We have relied on our National Guard, who've been incredible partners for the last couple of years, not just around wildfire, but throughout the pandemic. through climate change events like the ice storm event we had last year. National Guard has been essential to our work. With the passage of Senate Bill 762, we created or are working on a youth conservation corps, and these young people are helping us do the mitigation work to create healthier landscapes and communities around the state. And we are continuing to rely on adults in custody, our AICs, to help with wildfire fighting efforts. So we are both being very creative and innovative at the local level and working very closely with our federal partners to ensure that we have the adequate resources. Chief Shaw, back to you.
Well, you said a lot of really good things there. Again, I would just maybe add a couple things. One, very concerned about when the national firefighting effort gets stretched. That has far-ranging impacts to Oregonians and to the Oregon Department of Forestry and the Office of State Fire Marshal and all of the entities involved in fire suppression in Oregon. When other states get really busy, and we can see it in the last couple of years, in particular in California, where they have these massive fires that take multiple incident management teams and thousands of firefighters on the ground for weeks at a time, it stretches the system. And so we will continue to work through all of those systems that the governor outlined to be successful. One other piece that we lean on very, very heavily is our landowner community. We provide fire protection on those lands, but they are an integral part of the success of us catching those fires, finding those fires, and responding. And in the past, last year and the year before in 2020, when the national system is stretched, we tap into that landowner resource base significantly. And it's an all hands on deck approach. And anybody that can step up and help fight fire steps up and helps to fight the fire.
Thanks, Brandon. We have time for just a couple more questions. We'll go next to Gary Warner with EO Media. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having the event today. Wanted to find out a little bit about how you will be implementing House Bill 4087, which doesn't go into effect until next year, but passed with wide bipartisan support over some concerns about access to the major incidents that occurred last year and the year before. How are things going to be different this year than those years, and how will they be different? You know, what won't happen this year that will happen next year, I guess?
Thanks, Gary. I'm going to turn that question over to Director Phelps.
Thanks, Governor. Thanks, Gary. Yeah, we've got a really tremendous work group that's been established. I think we've had one kickoff meeting at this point. And it's a work group that's established with state agency partners, local agency partners through emergency responders, primarily agencies, as well as media, to help shape what that type of access to emergency and disaster sites that are closed to the general public, what that looks like, making sure that we can allow media to access safely with a certain level of PPE and training about what conditions may be present in an emergency location, whether it's a wildfire, a flood, an ice storm, or any other area that is closed to the general public, maybe due to evacuations or another threat that is present. For this summer's fire season, it's going to be status quo, just we've seen in years past, where it's up to the incident commander to determine who can access an area that's off limits to the general public. I'm really confident that working with our media partners and our other public safety partners at the local and state level, we'll find a path forward to ensure that media can access sites safely and help tell that story. Gary, you know that the media plays a huge role in providing timely and accurate information to the public to allow them to make decisions to protect themselves and their families. We want to ensure that when media is accessing these sites, that they're doing so safely and not jeopardizing themselves or those first responders who are trying to help out their communities.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Governor, we have one last question. This came in via text. It's actually directed to Major General Stencil. This question is from K-Val out of Eugene. Major General Stencil, regarding the availability of Blackhawks and Chinooks for water drops, what is the total number of helicopters available to assist in firefighting this season?
Major General Stencil, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. And, as I mentioned earlier, we're able to sustain 2 aircraft with 520 gallon water buckets for dropping. And then 1 Chinook is available for full-time support with a 1,500 gallon bucket and a surge for 1 up to 12 days. If we need more than that, we're going to exercise an EMAC scenario and reach out to some of the other states to bring in other aircraft or air crews to support that capability.
Thank you, General Stencil. And with that, that concludes our time. I, again, just want to say thank you to all Oregonians for being fire-wise and extremely careful when you're outside. We know this is going to be a very challenging wildfire year, and so your efforts to be prepared will help all of us. So thank you. Have a great day and be safe out there.